watching RJ Debates 2020. Here is your host, Steve Sebelius.
Welcome to RJ Debates 2020. I'm Steve Sebelius. In this debate series, we're talking with judicial candidates up and down the ballot. Tonight, we're going to be talking with candidates for District Court, Department number 3. The candidates are Adam Gantz. He's an attorney in private practice. He has more than 20 years of civil litigation experience. And also Monica Trujillo. She is a special public defender who specializes in capital and non-capital murder cases. We're going to start with opening statements from our candidates. We go in alphabetical order at the beginning. So, Mr. Gantz, you go first with 1 minute.
Well, thank you. I'm running for judge because the judicial system at the beginning and the end of the day is about people. People matter, and I'll never forget that. One such client that I'll never forget is a young girl who I'll call Jenny. Jenny was taken from her home, and she was put into a foster care home. And this is a home that she should never have been placed into by the Department of Family Services. And Jenny, at the age of 8, was molested in that home. I fought for her to ensure justice, but not only for her, but for other Jennies to follow. I fought the foster care system to make our community safer by holding them accountable and by hopefully making it to where this wouldn't happen again to somebody else. I recently heard that Jenny's doing well. She's got a full ride scholarship to Johns Hopkins, and she's doing much better now. And those experiences with my thousands of clients over the years have made sure that I will ensure that I remember that the justice system is about people. And my experience and my perspective from all these different cases will make me a better judge to be able to make these difficult decisions for everyone to come. And that's what I've done for the last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Mr. Hio, your opening statement.
Thank you. Compassion, character, commitment. Those words not only describe what I stand for, but those words motivate me each day to be better. I am the best candidate for Department 3 because in addition to having integrity and a strong work ethic, I have the experience, knowledge, and temperament to be a decisive and efficient judge. As a public defender, I have a unique perspective, a skill set, and substantive courtroom experience that many attorneys don't have. I've spent years in courtrooms almost daily, applying the rules of evidence, questioning witnesses, and arguing the law. And I have the added experience of handling our criminal justice system's most serious cases, homicide cases, where the stakes go far beyond financial gain and impact life and liberty. I have dedicated my career to serving this community, and that shows you what I believe in. But more than that, if you want a judge with extensive courtroom experience, a judge who will always do what's right, and a judge with a demonstrated commitment to public service, vote for me, Monica Trujillo, for District Court, Department 3.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. This first question, Monica, will go to you. In your primary debate, you and your opponent disagreed over the amount and the quality of your experience. How does criminal practice make you more suited to be a judge on the district court bench than your opponent's more than 20 years of civil litigation?
Thank you for the question. And it's not just my experience as a criminal defense attorney, it's specifically public defender experience. Public defenders are in court more than pretty much any attorney, from jury trials to preliminary hearings to evidentiary hearings to running master calendars. A district court judge is constantly running everyday hearings, which we practice. I am constantly in the courtroom questioning witnesses, applying the rules of evidence, and arguing case law. And when I was a regular public defender at the Clark County Public Defender's Office, that was almost daily.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gantz, mirror image of the same question. Why do you think your years of civil litigation experience make you more qualified than Ms. Trujillo's criminal practice?
Well, first of all, I'm glad we're talking about experience because we actually agree on that. She has said on many occasions that there is no substitute for jury trial experience. I have tried 6 times as many jury trials as my opponent. And that's, for me, being a judge, it's not something you do as a stepping stone to building your career, but it's the summit. It's not something you do for a pay raise. It is something you do as a cornerstone of your career. And no doubt I have learned a lot from my first jury trial, more from my first dozen trials. But that was just scratching the surface. And after 20 jury trials, then 30, then 40, and after my 50 trials, I'm not the same person. I can tell you that there is a significant crossover between criminal and civil, and the most important thing is that nothing changes with regards to the actual trials themselves. But more importantly, I've also had criminal experience, and I have criminal experience as a judge. I've been a justice of the peace pro tem, where the majority of the assignments that I've had have been dealing with criminal justice matters and domestic violence matters. So I realize my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. This next question goes to you first. You said in the primary debate that you are going to be tough on crime. What do you mean by that? Do you think you're going to impose stricter sentences? I note that you have been endorsed by pretty much every police officer association that endorses in these races. Are you going to be a hanging judge, if you will?
No, I don't believe that's an accurate way to say it. I am going to be tough on crime, and the reason is you talked about in the first debate. They talked about somebody who had already been convicted of a crime. So, in answering that question, I believe that I will be tough on crime and hold people accountable for their actions. That's all I've done my entire career, and I do believe that there are many diversionary programs and specialty court programs, and probably need some more of those. But they help mitigate and help those that need it. For instance, justice court, drug court or veterans court. But generally speaking, I will hold people accountable for their actions. And I've spent my entire career doing that. I talked about the Department of Family Services and holding them accountable and holding product manufacturers accountable. But by holding people and companies accountable, we make our community safer for everyone. And as a judge, I will bend over backwards to ensure the full opportunity for everybody to be heard and to defend themselves, but also to hold people accountable for their actions.
Mr. Trujillo, in the primary debate, your opponent said that you may have a conflict, use the word conflict, in dealing with criminal defendants because you've spent most of your career defending criminal defendants. How would you approach criminal defendants in light of your work?
Well, I think it's interesting that he even said that, because people can say the same about him treating plaintiffs' personal injury attorneys more favorable, because those are the attorneys who support him and endorse him. However, I believe my perspective as a defense attorney, I know that the system is about fairness and justice. It's about protecting certain rights while ensuring that justice for both parties. Ultimately, that is the goal. And my unique perspective in discussing cases and investigating both with my clients and with the victim side, I think I have a well-balanced perspective. I'm not one to say I'm going to be tough on crime, because a judge is supposed to be fair and neutral. So I think my opponent is previewing what he's going to do as a judge.
All right, thank you very much for that answer. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. We'll be back with more questions and answers with candidates for District Court Department number 3 right after this.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we know of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear. Mm-hmm. You know, like
Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Get ready for every Raiders game with us. Vegas Nation Game Day will give you everything you need to know about each week's matchup.
I'm excited.
Sundays at 9 a.m. starting in September on YourView. Vegas Nation Game Day coming this September.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We're speaking with candidates for District Court Department number 3. This next question goes to Ms. Trujillo first. Can you see yourself upholding a death sentence despite the years that you have spent fighting to keep people from going to death row?
Absolutely, because in death penalty cases, who imposes a death verdict? The judge merely upholds it, as you says, and certifies a death certificate.
And so you would have no problem upholding that verdict if that was the case?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Gantz, same question to you. Can you see yourself upholding a death penalty verdict?
Well, the first thing I would absolutely do as a judge is when you go back and you look at the trial and make sure that there was a fair trial for the defendant. And if everything checks those boxes and there was a fair due process and he's had the opportunity to go through that and the jury has spoken, I absolutely will uphold that verdict. And I certainly believe that's what our whole system is about. If there was errors that I had made, potentially, and I didn't see it, or something else had happened that way, we certainly have other avenues for them to appeal those verdicts to make sure that just absolutely 100% that we're getting those things right when we're dealing with someone's life like that.
Yeah. This next question is somewhat related to that. Do you think that there is, as some have alleged, a systemic and disproportionate treatment of certain people, especially people of color, in the justice system as it exists now? Mr. Gantz, that question to you first.
Well, the reality is that people's view about the judicial system and having a systemic racism in the judicial system, I believe, is absolutely supported by the statistics. There's no doubt about that. Now, I was watching a movie recently. It was one of my favorite movies. It's called Lean on Me. It was a movie that Morgan Freeman played a school principal by the name of Joe Clark. And the movie starts out with Morgan Freeman teaching a class about history, and he introduces the word imbrue. IMBRUE, and I didn't know what it was at first, and I had to look it up, but he defined it as to taint the spirit and stain the growth. He said the cancer of racism imbrues our national character. It stains the spirit. And this scene took place nearly 50 years ago. This could have been just yesterday. I mean, this has been going on for hundreds of years. Why are we still having this discussion about this? And as a judge, I will work every day to build the trust back into our judicial system to remove that stain. The only way to do that is to make sure that it's an open, equal, and fair process for everyone. So I do believe that there is some truth to that based upon the statistics that have come out, for sure.
Mr. Trujillo, same question to you. Do you believe there's systemic and endemic disparate treatment in the judicial system, especially for people of color?
I do believe so, and I think history shows us that that is true, especially from the inception of a case, which is at the time of arrest, all the way through the criminal justice system, in the court system. And I think that was most notable here in Nevada, when recently the Nevada Supreme Court changed the bail system here and the own recognizance release in April of this year, because in practice, the bail, the way it was applied, was discriminatory to minorities and to poor people. So I think it absolutely still exists, still here in 2020. And as a judge, I will be fair and neutral, and I can ensure that race or any other kind of bias will not come into my consideration.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take our break here, and we'll be back in just a moment with questions and answers for District Court Department 3. Stay with us.
With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We're talking with candidates running for District Court Department 3. Both of you have been practitioners and advocates for a long time. What problems do you think you will have going from an advocate for your clients to a neutral arbiter as judge? Ms. Trujillo, this question is to you first.
Thank you. I don't foresee any issues making the transition into judge. A judge's role is very specific: fair, neutral, impartial. A judge is supposed to follow the law, free of emotion, and I know I have the ability to do that.
Okay, Mr. Gantz, your response. You think you'll have any trouble after 20 years of civil litigation becoming a neutral arbiter?
Well, first of all, I think it's a little naive to think that somebody's not going to have a learning curve going into a new position. And the answer is simple. My jury trial experience is what is going to allow me to accelerate through that learning process. And if I'm elected, this will likely be a civil department. But I have done both criminal and civil law on both sides of it. But the reality is, again, I've tried 6 times as many jury trials as my opponent, and there's no doubt that I've learned a lot from those many trials, and I'm a different person as I've gone along. It's certainly different when I was a first-year attorney versus a fifth-year attorney versus a 10th-year attorney. Now, after 22 years or nearly 22 years, I have a different perspective. And certainly, you know, as we grow older and we have our children, we're certainly different people than we parent when our kids are 1 year old versus when they're 10 years old or 15 years old or 20 years old. So the reality is, I think I have the skill set to be able to jump right into there and be able to do that. Plus, I've already been a judge. I was a justice of the peace pro tem, and I'm still a short trial judge as of today. So,
all right. This next question, Mr. Gans, goes to you first. If you saw a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by either an unprepared or ineffective attorney, what would you as a judge do to handle that situation?
Well, there's many mechanisms that you can do as a judge to ensure that. Number one, you can counsel with the attorney to find out if there's something going on in the attorney's life that is prohibiting that. And there's been instances where attorneys have showed up, unfortunately, at court who have been intoxicated. And those are things that you have to protect the system. And that's what it's all about, protecting the system. I'll never substitute my judgment for that unless I'm actually the fact finder. So if I'm actually sitting as a judge as a fact finder, there are certain things I can do to be able to ask certain questions to get what I need out of it. But if I'm sitting there and I'm the referee, as I'm supposed to be in jury trials, then there's many things I can do to make sure that attorney is not just having a bad day or having a bad episode or whatever is going on. But certainly, I would never want to substitute my beliefs or my advocacy in place of another attorney. That's for the attorneys to do, and I would never do that. And I think as an attorney, I think that the judges that I have seen in this community do a very good job of making sure that the attorneys try their cases the way they want. They may have a plan and a strategy, and I got to leave them alone to do that.
Mr. Hugh, what would you do if you saw a party being ineffectively represented in your courtroom?
Well, the judicial canons actually require a judge to step in if they believe that an attorney is violating the Nevada professional rules of conduct. And litigants are entitled to effective assistance of counsels, defendants especially, but I think that a judge has a duty to step up and say something. Now, whether they immediately go to the bar is a different story. Obviously, we all face issues every day where emotional things happen. A judge has a duty to still find out what is going on. Is it a tactical decision? Because at the end of the day, that is the courtroom where justice is supposed to be served. So in order for that to happen, advocates must be prepared and effective.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take another break, and we'll be right back. Coming up, closing statements from our candidates, as well as maybe one more question for both candidates for District Court Department 3. So,
the Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app, check out vegasnation.com, and stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We're talking with candidates for the District Court bench in Department 3. This next question, Ms. Trujillo, goes to you. As you know, District Court judges enforce the rulings and precedents set by the Nevada Supreme Court. In your view, does the Supreme Court produce enough case law that can be relied upon for precedent?
Historically, I didn't think so, but I think they have since been moving away and producing way more case law and at a higher rate.
And okay, that sounds good. Mr. Gantz, your answer to that question?
Well, certainly they're overwhelmed. If you look at the actual statistics that the Supreme Court is looking at on a daily basis, it's unbelievable that they're able to get out as many cases as they do. And I would agree with Ms. Trujillo that they've gotten better, and that's ever since the advent of the appeals court. And they're doing a great job in the appeals court to get some cases out. I mean, just 2 cases came out this morning. I think 7 came out last Friday. So the reality is that they're doing a better job of it. But I still think both of the Supreme Court and the appeals court are so overwhelmed. When you talk to those judges, they just have a humongous caseload. It's still taking 18 months to 3 years for a case to go through the appeal process, which is just way too long. So the reality is, I don't think it's the judge's fault. I just think it's a matter of volume. We're one of the largest counties with the largest Supreme Court volume that in the country, and the advent of the appellate court was helpful, but I still think they can use a little bit more help, maybe some more judges or maybe some different panels, or the opportunity to be able to deal with some stuff more summarily. But they do need some more help for sure.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, we've come to the part of our debate where we go to closing statements. We're going to go in the reverse order than we did at the beginning. So, Ms. Trujillo, you get to go first with your closing statement.
Thank you. Now is the time for change. A time when not only your professional experiences matter, but who you are matters. And in addition to that, your personal experiences matter. I bring a diverse perspective to the bench, and not just with regard to race and gender, but my background, cultural, personal experiences, upbringing, and my perspective as a criminal defense attorney. And those perspectives matter. My courtroom experience, coupled with the compassion I show and the integrity that I display each day, make me the best choice for Department 3. I have dedicated my career to serving this community, and now I am stepping up and out of my comfort zone because I see a need for change, and I know I can make a difference. The time for complaining is over. I will be a judge who is fair, accessible, and respectful, a judge that this community needs now more than ever. The choice to choose who to vote for is a personal one. Who would you want to appear before in a courtroom? Your voice is your power, and your vote matters. Vote for compassion, character, commitment. Vote Monica Trujillo for District Court Judge Department 3, and please continue to stay safe.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gantz, your closing statement.
In the end, we agree. There is no substitute for trial experience, and I've tried more than 6 times the number of trials as my opponent. And my 22 years of practicing law is twice as long as my opponent. Those numbers, they tell the story of this race. For me, being a judge is not something you do as a stepping stone to building a career. It's the cornerstone. It's not something that you do for a pay raise or a promotion. It's about having done what you have done prior to becoming a judge, and your experiences. And my experiences have proven that our community and people are safer when justice is served. People like Jenny, like we talked about in the beginning. And as your judge, I will work every day to build the trust that has eroded our judicial system. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we have an open and equal and fair process for all. So thank you to my opponent for a vigorous debate. And thank you to the RJ for hosting these. And thank you to the RJ for endorsing me for this race.
Well, thank you both. That's the end of our debate. I want to thank both candidates for showing up, and I appreciate their thoughtful responses to all my questions. You can stay up to date on all the 2020 political news on our website. That's www.reviewjournal.com. Join us again as our judicial debate series continues. Until then, for the Las Vegas Review Journal, I'm Steve Sebelius.